Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we are discussing Tarleton's graduate program in biology. And I'm pleased to be joined today by Callie Price, who represents the program and serves as graduate program coordinator. And as she's going through her presentation, if you do have questions, we ask that you please submit them using the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will handle those at the end. So at this time, I'll just turn things over to Callie.
Hi, everyone. My name's Callie Price. I am the graduate program coordinator here for the Master's in Biology program. I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about our program, admission requirements, a little bit about the research our faculty do. So I hope that you find this session very helpful, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end. So you're ready to apply and you're curious about maybe what the requirements are to be in our program. To get full admission, you must have a 3.0 GPA. However, we have accepted students with less than a 3.0 as long as they had a 2.5 on their last 60 hours. We call that kind of conditional admission, and that may require you to take certain courses and score a B or higher, or a GPA of a B or have a B or higher in your first semester. There's no GRE required. When you apply through the College of Graduate Studies first, and there's a $50 application fee. It also involves that you submit a personal statement. It's really important in that statement that you tell us a little bit about why you're interested in our program, what are kind of your long-term goals, and why did you choose our program specifically, to show that you've done a little bit of research on our program and your interest in it, and you're kind of not just blindly applying to it. The application deadline, we can accept students a few days before each semester, 5 days before fall, spring, or summer. It's more common for students to start in the fall. However, we do have students start in other semesters as well. We have two available tracks in our master's program. One of them we call thesis track, and the other we call our professional track, or more commonly referred to as our non-thesis track. So what is the difference between these two tracks? A thesis is where students are interested in doing research with a faculty member, and that involves establishing a research project with a faculty that does the kind of research that you're interested in doing. You work really closely with that faculty member over your time during the program. You take 32 hours of coursework. Part of that coursework, you get credit for thesis hours or your research hours, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And you also have a committee that you work with as well, that kind of helps you along the way through that project. You usually submit a thesis proposal. That's kind of your plan for doing your thesis, and that has to get approved by the committee. And then you're ready to move forward with actually doing your research project. And then at the end, you will formally write up the results of that project. It also includes a literature review on your subject, as well as the results and analysis of those results and discussion. The professional track or the non-thesis track means that you're not required to do a research project. You're primarily just doing coursework, 36 hours of coursework. However, in your last semester, it does involve a written and an oral exam. That written exam is based off of the courses that you took during your time in the graduate program. Once you have passed that written exam, you're ready then to move forward with the oral exam, which involves, it could be questions based on classes you took, as well as just general biology concepts as well. And I forgot to mention on the thesis, you also do an oral exam. We call that your defense, which is primarily based on questions related to your research, but it can also involve general biology concepts as well. We have a wide diversity of topics that students have done. We have a list here to give you an example of some of those projects. Again, the project is centered in kind of working with the faculty member in their area of expertise, but usually work closely with that faculty member and kind of narrow down a specialized project that you're very interested in doing within the scope of their expertise typically. Over here, I have a list of our research faculty. It is good practice when you are interested in applying to a master's program that you look at what faculty are there and the kind of research that they're doing to make sure that you think it might be a good fit to apply to our program. And you could always reach out to these faculty members individually as well before you apply to get a better idea if they may be a good fit for you and you may be a good fit for them working within their research labs. Dr. Schreibe is our freshwater ecologist, so she's very interested in looking at diatoms. She also does paleoecology as well, which involves taking core samples for from lakes and looking at how those communities have changed over time. Dr. Edwards, he does a lot of work with phages and does projects with students looking at these viruses, how they infect microbes, and their potential impact or parasitism on humans. Dr. Herman is our parasitologist. She studies a wide variety of different organisms that are infected with parasites. This can include birds and mammals, fish as well. And Dr. Meek is our resident herpetologist. He also has a wide variety, but he is a snake expert, a rattlesnake expert specifically. However, recently he has secured lots of grants looking at cages map turtles as well. So his more recent students have been focusing on turtles, but he's also interested in doing work with amphibians as well. Dr. Fowl is our geneticist, primarily looking at population genetics, but he also is interested in conservation genetic work as well. Dr. Harold Rathburn, he is our resident biochemist and is very interested in looking at proteins and genes in crops. Dr. Max Sanderford, he is more interested in looking at cardiovascular systems as well as cascades of hormones and physiological functions. Dr. Spieshak is our resident microbiologist. She has done a wide variety of projects with students as well. She also is interested in genetics, toxicology, and nanoparticles. Dr. Brown is a fairly new faculty member here. Does a lot of biotechnology expertise. And then our two newest research faculty member are Dr. Ko and Dr. Giannoli. Dr. Ko is very interested in ecology and ethnobiology. He has a lot of interesting projects that he has in mind for students that will look at kind of human impact on natural resources, why we choose to manage those resources in certain ways, and is very interested in working with communities, people, and interactions of people and plants. Dr. Giannoli, he also is kind of a wide scope as well, but has interest in functional and ecology of plants, particularly in Mediterranean type of systems. All of these faculty members have labs that support the research that they're doing. We also have animal care facilities as well that are temperature and light controlled, so we can do controlled studies there. We also have a biological field station. It's about an hour and a half or so away from our main Stephenville campus. So it's a little bit of a travel, but we have had students design research projects out there, either in plant communities and or river systems, because it does run along the Colorado River. And then there are potential opportunities to do research projects in our study abroads. We recently went to Roatan last summer for the first time, and we didn't have any graduate students go on that trip. They were more than welcome to, but in that case, we only had undergrad, but the undergrad students did kind of micro studies while we were there. However, we plan to kind of keep returning to this facility in this particular location, so there's potential that a graduate student could design a project there as well. So let's talk about kind of the coursework, depending on if you go with thesis track or the non-thesis professional track. Regardless of which track you are, all students have to take 2 seminar classes and a research design and analysis class. The seminar classes are 1-credit classes, and it kind of rotates through depending on the faculty member who's teaching it. They may decide a different theme or topic for the seminar that semester. And then research design and analysis is our graduate statistics class. So both thesis and non-thesis professional track must take those 3 required courses. And then depending on if you're thesis or non-thesis, for thesis, you also will get credit for doing your research. So towards the end of your research project, usually the last semester or 2, you'll enroll in thesis hours, and these can be split across for semesters. They don't have to be taken the same semester. It's not a class that you're taking, but rather credit that you're getting for doing that research project. Most usually take it the last semester or 2 because at that time you're really trying to wrap up your project and you're doing a lot of writing, so it allows you to kind of focus more on that research with a little less coursework because you would have finished a large portion of that by that time. Thesis students also take a biological scientific writing course. This is a really helpful course that we started a few years ago because remember I mentioned earlier that part of doing a thesis means that you have to write up a thesis proposal, which is basically the plan that you are going to submit to your committee that says, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it. It also involves an extensive literature review that shows that you've spent some time learning about the background of your topic and the research that has already been done. And so this course will support students in the writing of that thesis proposal. And so you get a lot of one-on-one feedback along the way during the course, and then hopefully by the end you have a well-prepared proposal to submit to your committee. Additionally, you have supporting biology coursework that you will need to take. So these are electives that you'll be able to take, and we'll show some examples of those on a list here in a minute. And then where you see where it says additional biology or supporting area, 3 hours, that means you could take another 3 hours of biology, or you could take 3 credit hours outside of biology. So let's say there is a graduate level class in administration or communications that maybe you may want to take that class depending on your career goals that may help support some of those skills. Professional track, so our non-thesis track, they are not required. Again, they don't take a thesis because they don't do research. So they're primarily focused on taking biology coursework. So they're required to take 21. And then additionally, they'll have to take 10 either more biology classes or a supporting area, meaning that they could take 10 hours outside of biology, again, to kind of meet maybe some of the other career goals or skills that they're hoping to gain by the end of their master's program. And these are just a list. I'm not going to read through them all, but this list on the left that says graduate electives, these are our graduate level courses, some examples of those, and they kind of alternate, and they're not all offered every semester, so they kind of rotate through fall, spring, and sometimes summer. So for example, we have an environmental micrograduate level that's being offered this summer. So you can kind of spread out when those graduate courses occur and when you might want to plan to take them. You would work very closely with me as a graduate program coordinator. I'm also the advisor of the program. So we would kind of plan out when you would anticipate to take these graduate level courses to make sure you don't miss one that you were really interested in taking. Over here on the right-hand side, this is a pretty long list. These are potential electives that you could take However, these are what we call cross-listed courses, meaning they are graduate courses that are cross-listed with undergraduate courses, meaning that you could take this cross-listed course up to 12 hours of these to apply towards your required biology credits. In these courses, you would be mixed in graduate students and undergraduate students take them as well. But it's really important that if you do decide to take any of these cross-listed courses, again, you would work very closely with me to make sure that you don't go over 12 hours of credit for these cross-listed classes. Often students will reach out early on asking what type of financial support do we offer. The primary form of support for the biology program is we offer graduate teaching assistantships. So this is the most common way or thing that students tend to apply for in our program. You have to maintain good GPA standing, 3.0 or above, and be enrolled in at least 6 graduate credits each semester to retain a graduate teaching assistantship. What does this mean? This means that you will be assigned to help teach undergraduate labs. These are typically general biology labs, human anatomy and physiology labs, as well as microbiology labs. You would teach 3 to 4 labs depending on the semester, and you're not alone in teaching those. So there's a coordinator for each of these labs, and they work closely with you and a team of other graduate teaching assistantships. They help develop the materials for teaching, help you with setting up the lab, and all those things that are involved with teaching. Research assistantships, those are fewer and far between. This is up to the faculty member. So if you're working with a faculty chair for a thesis research project, potentially they may have received grant funding that supports a student. Again, these are more few and far between, so you would need to reach out to that faculty member that you may be interested in working with to see if they have that for their particular lab or research program. We also encourage students to apply for scholarships as well. And then there are other forms of support. So if you're doing a thesis research project, that usually means that you are going to apply and travel to conferences to present that research. And so the college will help support you financially to attend those. So help cover your travel and hotel and things like that. So it's a really good thing to do if you are doing research because it allows you to network with others in your field. And potentially those are people that you may want to extend out to after you're done with your program looking for jobs, or maybe you're interested in doing a PhD program with them. So it's really good to go to conferences during your time here. Where are students? What are they doing after they leave our program? There's a lot of variation in where our students go and what they do. We have students that they are primarily coming in to get a master's because they want to go on to a PhD program after. So that is one example of what our students are doing, but it's not the only example. Some are also interested in going on to vet school or med school afterwards, but a lot of them go straight into the workforce. And as you can see from this list, they're doing all different kinds of things, everything from working in a genomics lab to working for Texas Parks and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Some of them are hired on as researchers. A large number of our students will apply to community colleges or even potentially universities to be lecturers, which usually involves teaching freshman level type courses or labs, which you can do if you have a master's in biology. And so here we have our social media for Facebook and Instagram. I encourage you to go ahead and snap a picture of those here or scan them. I encourage you to follow us so you can see some updates of what faculty are doing or when study abroads are going on, what's happening there. And you're also encouraged to interact with us, send us messages if you would like. We have someone that kind of manages our social media within our department. And so you're welcome to send kind of informal type questions or things there if you would like. And then again, my name was Callie Price. I'm the program coordinator for our master's in biology. The best way to contact me is through email. So cjprice@tarleton.edu. Make sure you add the J in there so it comes to me. And also my phone number is listed here as well. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I welcome your questions.
All right, thank you so much for that, Callie. To our live audience members, we'd love to hear your questions. You should submit those using the Q&A box or the chat box, and we'll get those handled for you. In the meantime, I do have some questions of my own. So I wanted to ask you, who is the ideal student for this program? And do they need to have come from a biology background?
They do not have to have a background, say a bachelor's in biology per se. We have accepted students in our program that maybe have a degree in animal science or something from outside of biology. However, when you apply and we look at your transcripts, we will look to see what kind of biology, if any, you have taken. If you have a degree in a similar field, it's likely that you've had the coursework likely needed to be successful in our class. However, if it's distantly related to our field, then you may be required to take leveling coursework your first semester. Leveling work does not give you credit towards your degree completion, so it's something you would have to do before you could kind of move on into your actual coursework.
But you can do leveling as part of the grad program. You don't have to have it before you get to talk.
Correct. Correct.
And so are most students coming straight out of undergrad or have they been way?
I would I would say most of them are straight out of undergrad. We do have some that maybe graduated with their bachelor's and then they went off into the workforce for a little bit and then they're wanting to come back. So maybe they took a little break in between the two. But I would say the majority of our students are going straight from undergrad into the master's program.
And then can you confirm which campus and whether or not this is in person or online?
Our program is located at the Stephenville campus. As far as your coursework, the majority of those occur in person. With some exceptions, there are a few that may be offered online. I would say our summer courses are mostly online for summer, but our fall and spring courses are primarily face-to-face, with a few exceptions.
Mhm. And so students are going to school year round?
Most of ours will take fall, spring, and summer courses. It's not required that you take summer courses. It's just very common that our students do because they're wanting to kind of move at a faster pace to finish. Also, for those that are doing a thesis research project, they're usually already here throughout the summer working on that research. So they may take a class or two since they're already going to be in Stephenville working on that research.
What percentage of students do the thesis versus non-thesis track?
Right now, I would say it's almost 50-50 with maybe just a slight more that are non-thesis at this time, but it's pretty evenly distributed depending on when students came in, but it's about equal distribution, those doing a thesis and those not. And some of them we had start as non-thesis, and then as they came into the program and really met the faculty more, they got excited and they switched to thesis. And then we've had the opposite happen as well. Maybe they thought they wanted to do a thesis and they could switch to non-thesis. So it is an option to switch. However, if you come in as non-thesis and you're wanting to switch, you would want to figure that out relatively quickly because there's a lot involved with doing the thesis, from planning to required forms and deadlines and things like that. So it's always good to, again, before you ever get here, to talk to some of these faculty and see if you really are interested in doing a research project, or if you're not. Sometimes it's a good fit, sometimes you may decide it's not, which is completely fine. But it's really good to have those conversations early before you even apply or arrive, so you kind of have a plan as soon as you get off at the first of the semester.
And do you find that most students are coming in with a strong idea of what they might want to research, or do they get support
So
in
what happens, I would say, some of them do. So some of them already make contact way before they're even before they even finish their bachelor's. Some of them have already talked to the faculty member, and that's their plan. They're coming in to do a master's. They know they're going to be working in this faculty member's lab, so they have a very strong plan. However, it is not uncommon for students to come in without a plan, and that's kind of where my role has kind of stepped in, and I've tried to help students out with a lot. So in addition to being like your course advisor, I'm kind of a person that can help guide you in, well, I don't know what faculty member to talk to, or I'm not sure who to ask. And so my part of my job is to help guide you in that process and to make sure that you're kind of figuring that out in a timely manner so that you can graduate in the time frame that you were anticipating.
and you mentioned that most people will do their thesis hours in their last two semesters.
Mhm.
When do they start working on it and choosing their committee and that type thing?
So you're supposed to have your committee chair, which is your main faculty research person, right? Plus 2 to 3 other persons on that committee. That is most typically 2 other faculty members that serve on your committee. However, if it makes sense for your project, your faculty chair may recommend an outside member, maybe an outside expert, to serve on that committee. Now we have a quote unquote deadline that we say by the end of your first semester, you need to have your degree plan and committee form signed to ensure that you have a faculty member committed to being on your committee. And so ideally that happens during the first semester. That way you can roll into the second semester getting a real head start on that thesis proposal, getting it approved so that you can move forward with your research project.
Okay. And did I hear you say that the thesis students don't do any type of comprehensive or oral exam other than what's needed for their dissertation defense?
Correct. So I'll clarify the exam portion again for both thesis and non-thesis. So I'll start with the thesis first. So the thesis, you as a thesis student, you're taking some coursework and you're also completing your research project. Um, when you're getting close, so you and your committee member have realized that you're wrapping up your project, you're ready to write. During your last semester, at that point, you should be finishing up writing of your thesis, which includes all those sections that I talked about earlier, which has your literature review, your methodology, your results, analysis, discussion. But during that last semester, as a thesis student, um, when you and your committee have decided that you're ready, but there's also some deadlines there that I help you with in that last semester, you will then do a presentation that anyone in the community is welcome to, the Tarleton community, others that you may invite as well. Anyone can attend that presentation, and that's where you tell us all the amazing things that you did and found in your research. After that kind of public presentation has concluded, then you and your committee members will go into a closed session to do what we call your oral defense. So it's only you and your committee members in there, and it's an oral examination. And so that's where they will ask you questions in that closed session It's mostly related to your research, but again, because you're trying to graduate with a master's in biology, they can ask you general biology questions as well, in addition to questions about your research. And at the conclusion of that oral exam, they will say you've passed or you failed or you need to retake at the end of that session. So it's only an oral defense or an oral exam that week as a thesis student. As a non-thesis student, during your last semester, you will work with your main faculty advisor to schedule your written exam. Your written exam, faculty advisor will send out a call to the professors of the classes that you took during your time in our program and say, would you like to submit some questions for this student's written exam? You'll then schedule that exam, take the written exam. Once you have passed the written portion of the exam, you then work with your faculty advisor to schedule the oral exam. The oral exam, again, it's involves primarily it can be questions related to coursework you've taken, but it's primarily questions about general biology type of ideas at that point because they're trying to see, okay, if you're graduating with a master's in biology, there are certain things that we expect that you know before you can say, I have a master's in this, right? So for the non-thesis or the professional track, you take both a written and an oral exam. For the thesis track, you only do the oral exam.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you so much. So you had mentioned the study abroad to, is it the Rotan Institute? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And that you might continue to go back there in the future. Where exactly is that located?
So Roatan is a part of Honduras, and the particular location that we went, it's located in the Gulf of Mexico. We had students there. I think we were there 10 days last July, and we continue to plan to go back, but we're thinking every other year we'll go back. So we're going to try to alternate. So last year was study abroad. This summer, I'm taking students on study away. We're going to be doing a little mainland Florida and then Florida Keys for study away. And then next year we'll alternate back to a study abroad.
Exciting. So
Yeah.
we've got some viewer questions. Someone is asking about the teaching assistantships. What exactly do they cover? Is it just tuition or would any living stipends be available?
Oh, good question, Conrad. So it doesn't cover tuition. It's a stipend. I say it's a 9-month contract if you start in the fall. But it's basically breaks down to about just a little over 1,500 per month, when you break it down by the month. So it's a stipend. It doesn't cover tuition. It does, however, if you are coming from out of state, if you are awarded a teaching assistantship, um, it would change that to in-state tuition.
And which is a huge benefit. So yes, the assistantships do come with the ability to be classified as a Texas resident for tuition purposes. So you do get that lower rate, which is a huge benefit. All
Mhm.
right, next question. If I'm pursuing my PhD eventually, can I incorporate my master's thesis as part of my PhD dissertation, or would that depend on the doctoral program?
That would depend on the doctoral program as well as your faculty advisor. I will tell you, we have a student that the level of research that they did for their master's is PhD quality. And they would like to be able to go on to a PhD program with that work. But again, that kind of is based on the individual program as well as the faculty member as well to see if what you're doing could constitute as that level of a thesis.
Very good to know. Well, thank you, Callie. This has been very helpful to hear you overview the program so thoroughly. We
Yeah.
your time. And to our live audience members, I want to remind you that the recording of this presentation will be available to review on the College of Graduate Studies YouTube channel. So if you need to go back and watch again, certainly feel free to do that. And if you know of others who could benefit from this graduate program, we hope that you will share the recording with them as well. So again, thanks to everybody for your time. And I think with that, we can end our webinar. So have a great rest of your day.
Yes, thank you for coming, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have further questions.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.